Hey, this is William from Bad Dog Bikes, Bicycle Sales and Service right here in historic downtown Freedom. Hey, I met a fella. His name's Joe Hall. He's coming out of Dayton, Ohio. How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good, pretty good. Can't complain.
Yeah, he's on a hell of an adventure here, people. He's heading to San Francisco, California, and he's pushing it and walking it. Tell us about your journey there, Joe.
The journey itself is a walk to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, as well as raising funds for Children's Hospital back home for their behavioral health unit. A friend of mine, a girl I graduated with 2 years ago, lost her son to suicide at 16, and they started a fundraiser in his name. And there was a business group in Dayton that told them, well, we'll give you 5 years. If you get to $50,000 raised, we're going to match that with $50,000.
Nice.
Now, they do their own fundraisers and everything, and they've, before I started the walk, they had raised about 38 and a half of that. So they're doing real well. And I told Sarah when I decided to do this walk, I said, I'm going to do this for you guys to try to help you get to your 50,000.
Nice.
And, you know, she and her mom were both overjoyed about it. You know, and so far I think we've raised a little over 3,000 more for them.
Sure.
It's less than I've wanted. Obviously, I set a goal that I thought we could really smash, and you know, but inflation being what it is, you know, I don't really. I know they'll get there next year on their fundraiser, but I really want to do everything I can to help them get there. But
sure. And create awareness is a big thing, Joe, as we talked earlier, you know, and then because almost everybody's, you heard the story in the lunchroom, around the coffee shop. Oh man, my friend's son killed himself or daughter killed him. You've always heard those stories trickle in. You may not have actually had it happen to your family or a close member of your family. You know, like for me personally,
right? Suicide,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's terrible. It's tragic. It can be avoided. You know, we just got to create awareness and get them education programs and get them the support they really need.
Absolutely.
To prevent that from happening. You know?
Yeah. And it was really crazy. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a little town in Iowa called Norway, and I'd gotten permission from the sheriffs to camp at the baseball field.
Nice.
And I took a wrong turn. I went a road too far up, and I ran in. There's a bunch of people having a pool party, and you know they were
yeah.
and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And so I walked over and we started talking.
Sure.
And they fed me. And
nice.
it got down to it, and the homeowner, the wife, she goes, you know, when you said you were walking for mental health awareness, it kind of shook me. I don't know if you noticed. She's like, 'cause 6 years ago we lost our son to suicide.
Wow.
And I was like, and it's crazy because it's like if I don't take this wrong turn, we don't meet and we don't connect and we don't talk about it. And after her son passed away, she gave her information to the funeral home they used, and she said since then. She lost count, but she said it's probably close to 300 families have reached out to her, having lost kids to suicide.
Yeah, it is terrible. It's tragic. It really is.
Yeah.
And you know, the individuals who actually go through that action, that if you sit there and ponder that for a moment, it's just terrible that those last few minutes, you know, if they could just get the little spark of hope or stop that physical pain, because I've had a lot of friends who would tell me when they were severely depressed, it's just the physical pain. I just want that pain to stop in my body. You know what I mean? And, you know, and it's just, and that's often why they probably go hit the hard drugs and get that hit of dopamine from that high-end dope crap, you know what I mean, or whatever. But it is tragic. And, you know, I appreciate what you're doing, Joe. That's outstanding. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Great stories to tell, you know. I mean, you're right. You took that wrong corner. Boom, baby. You meet these people. You hear that stories. You got to share that life event with those people. And you got a good food out of the deal, too,
Absolutely.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
It's not often on this trip I've had home-cooked food, you know. So I always, if somebody offers, I'm taking them up on it.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. So here, just local, you said you stayed in Blair, and then, or from Iowa, you came into Nebraska on the Blair Road, I imagine, across the river bridge.
Yeah.
Yep. So in Iowa, just prior to Blair, where did you stay, if I can ask?
I was in Missouri Valley.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah. Right there.
They've got that little camp. They've got a little city campground there.
Nice.
But it was kind of crazy that last day in Iowa, the last full day. It was a 27-mile day that I walked, and you know, the first 9 miles went good. Second 9 miles went all right. I met a cross-country team that was a high school cross-country team, and a couple of the girls were like, "We saw you all the way in Dunlap when you started." And I said, "Yeah." I was like, "I still got 9 miles to go," and I got a couple miles out of town.
Yeah.
And walking along 30, and there was a car crash. A woman rear-ended someone.
Shoot, yeah.
And I was right there, so I turned around. And I made sure everybody's okay. The woman and the girl she hit, they both got out of their cars. So I was like, okay, they're okay. I'm going to go call the police. So while I'm waiting on the police, I'm on the side of the road directing traffic while they're waiting by their cars. The woman who did the hitting, I said something and I was like, oh man, I was like, I'm just glad you didn't, think it was my fault. And she's like, oh, it was your fault. I was looking at you. And I'm like,
Well,
ma'am? So I kind of brushed that off. And
Yeah,
then finally
yeah.
the police got there. But what it did is it ended up kind of killing about an hour and a half or 2 hours
Oh,
of
sure.
travel time for me.
Yeah.
And I had planned on like get into Missouri Valley, go somewhere, sit down, have dinner, get the tent set up, crash for the night.
yeah.
What it turned into was stumble into Missouri Valley as it's getting dark, go into Casey's, grab 3 slices of somewhat warm cheese
Yes,
pizza,
yeah.
some Gatorades. I threw the tent up in the dark, and I'm like laying on my side eating pizza, drinking Gatorade in the tent.
Yeah.
Just trying to make up calories because I've noticed on a lot of the days and it doesn't even have to be long days, just days in general. If I don't eat enough on this day, the next day is torture. It's just rough.
They call that hiker's hunger. That's a true definition. Like a friend of mine, he did the Appalachian Trail. Took him 4+ months, and he said, I just couldn't eat enough.
Yeah.
Ended up losing 30, 40 pounds, and he was already, a thinner guy to begin with,
Right.
athlete over the years. And hiker's hunger. I know when I'm out cycling, and a 75-mile day, that's a hard day on a bicycle, even on a
Right.
bicycle, and you're doing. I asked you earlier, what do you average in about 2.5, 3 miles an hour? You were saying approximately, and that's a hard average too, because you're stopping and eating, and
Right.
you know what I mean. So that 25, 30-mile day, that's pretty impressive, really. Pushing your 3-wheel cart out there and stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, Joe, he just called me on the phone. He needed a quick release skewer for his front wheel, and had some little small mechanical problems there, and just stopped in the shop here, and we just got a gabbing about his journey here, his life journey, and so he's just started sharing and stuff. So from Fremont, you're headed westbound.
Right. The plan was to go to North Bend. They didn't really have anywhere that they approved me to camp in town. So part of me said, well, maybe we just, go big and let's just go straight for Schuyler. I did have a person. There's a businessman I actually stayed with in Columbus when I was in Ohio as I was passing through, who was a friend of a friend who kind of followed along on Facebook.
Sure.
And his business is basically finding veterans jobs overseas after they get out.
Yeah, nice.
And he donated some money last night and said, hey, here's for he didn't understand that the wheel just needed the skewer.
Okay.
He's like, hey, new wheel, shower, hotel, dinner, whatever order. He's
Yeah.
like, do this.
Yeah, nice.
So with it being as late in the day it is, because I usually try to get started by like 6 to 7.
Yeah.
I may end up just going back up north in town and get a room for the night.
Sure.
And then just get out early and
Early
kind
in
of
the morning,
hit
get
it to
after it.
Schuyler. And it kind of it throws off the distances of what I was going to do. But I mean, that's what this journey has been about. Is it's like, here's your curveball.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with it?
Yeah, right.
And that
right.
for me, in addition to suffering from depression myself, and part of the reason that the whole walk came about was on September 1st of 2020, I was in a motorcycle accident.
Okay.
I went through the back window of an SUV in front of
Oh,
me.
shoot.
I spent a little less than 3 weeks in the hospital, all
Okay.
told.
Probably lucky to be alive, dude.
A
Really?
lot of people have said that, but the funny thing is I never lost consciousness the
Okay.
entire time. I had 2 pelvic fractures, so I've got a plate in the front of my pelvis and I've got a screw in the back, which is, with all the walking, some of that stuff is
Gets irritated. I'm
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But
yeah.
the-
Inflamed.
yeah.
Yeah.
The first 2 nights in the hospital, though, I actually came as close as I've ever come to ending my life.
Okay.
And it's crazy, but like the accident put me at that lowest point, but the fact that I was in that accident and all the swelling and everything from my waist down, I wasn't paralyzed, I just couldn't move.
Right.
And that's probably what saved my life, because
Okay.
I was going to try to hang myself in the hotel in the hospital bed.
Right.
Now, granted, when you're in that mindset, you're obviously not thinking straight, because I look back on it now, and hindsight's always 20/20.
Always, dude.
But I
Always.
look back and it's like, dude, as soon as your vitals would have gone, you're in a trauma unit. So as soon as your vitals would have
Mm-hmm.
gone, they would have been like, what's going on? They rush in there, they see what I'm doing. Then I spend the rest of my hospital stay strapped to the bed.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and
So-
you're deemed suicidal then at that point. He needs and positive or negative, who knows the outcome of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes.
And
yeah.
it's just, but after that, I decided to start focusing on positive things.
Yes.
Trying to,
Yeah.
and to keep my mind off of that. So I set a goal that third day, which was the day after they did my surgery and they got me to stand up for the first time. I said, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon.
Nice.
So in October of last year, I finished. I won't say run. I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm
I
not gonna. I'm
understand.
not gonna.
You did the whole 26.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I'm not going to tarnish what the actual runners did by
Right,
calling it running, but I
right.
finished the
Nice.
I finished the Columbus Marathon.
Right.
And then as I baby deer leg walked back to my car, I said I felt there's something else in the tank. I got something else to do. So 5 weeks later, again with zero training, I went out to Arizona and I did a 48-hour ultra marathon.
Did you?
I completed 52.2 miles over 2 days.
Oh, across 48 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And for
yeah.
me, I set a goal of 100 because I did the math. I'm like, man, if I can do 26 miles in 7 hours, then 100 over 48, but 100 miles in Arizona, even in
Yes.
October or even in
Yeah.
November, is still 80 degrees during the daytime.
Yeah.
And I had blister issues, and that's the one thing too I've gotten really good with this walk is feeling when the blisters are coming and getting ahead of them.
Yeah.
And when I got into Altras, these shoes, I haven't had toe blisters the entire time since I
Nice.
got into them. So
Yeah.
I'll get some on the heels, I'll get hot spots there,
Right.
and sometimes on the balls of my feet. But I'm way better now at like,
Right.
oop, that's a hot spot. Let's throw some tape on it.
Right.
And I've never had one that's kept me from going like
Yeah.
I did in that race.
Are you on your first set of shoes still?
No. This is actually pair number 5 overall.
Oh, no kidding.
The one downside that I will say about Ultra, and maybe it's just I think most of it is because I'm a bigger guy. Most running shoes aren't designed for guys my size.
And they have a life expectancy anyway.
Right.
Running shoes do 3 months, 90 days,
Right.
120 days. If you're an avid runner running daily or using those daily,
Right.
Yeah, it's 3 months to 4 months,
Yeah.
really, technically.
And
then they turn into garden shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Really. So
So I've been shipping them home, and what I hope to do at the end is kind of build a display case
Nice.
and do like a chronological
Yeah.
order of the shoes that
Yes.
I did for the walk.
yes, and maybe someday that could go into a silent auction or something for creating depression awareness or
That-
mental health awareness,
right.
and who knows?
Yeah, because
Might come along and get a nice little payday out of that nice little setup.
For me, and that's the other thing too, is it's like I do want to write a book when this is all done.
Nice, yeah.
I had a friend who initially when it first started, my cousin and I talked, and a friend of mine talked, and we were like, let's try to make it into a documentary. And I was like, yeah, it's a really good idea. And then after about a week of walking and being exhausted all the time, because when I started, I was probably 50 pounds bigger than I am now. I was
I would assume you lost weight.
I was the
Yes.
size of a house when I
And-
started.
yeah.
And it just got to the point where it's like all I was focused on, and it's still that way now. It's like I just want to get A to B. Now, granted, like when I stop and talk to people, that's a plus because one,
Sure.
I'm on the road alone all the time. I
Yeah.
always
You want the
enjoy
dialogue, once in a while.
conversation,
even
right?
just 5-10 minutes of dialogue.
Right.
It's a big deal. Yes.
But it's for me the focus is still a lot of days, especially with my feet still hurt every day. Like that's where
Sure.
what I'm doing, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I get to the point where it's like I just want to get where I'm going, and I never really have. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of compelling stuff like walking through farmland to turn it into a documentary. But I do want to write a book about it, and like we talked about, when I get done, I want to explore the potential of turning Haul Across the Country, which is what this is named on Facebook
Oh,
and
it
Instagram.
is. I was
Yeah,
going to
I've got-
ask you that.
Yeah.
How can we see that?
Haul Across the Country. HALL. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a Facebook page and an Instagram page.
Yeah.
I've also got a TikTok, but I am not TikTok savvy.
I'm not a TikTok
And I'm not
guy.
I look at what some of these people can do and like how creative they
Yeah.
are. Usually what I do is I'll update or I'll upload like a 3-minute update every now and then of what's going on.
Sure.
And then I just copy and paste that TikTok video to Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
And there is a website too, www.haulacrossthecountry.com. It's got an intro video on there, which basically just covers what we talked about.
Sure.
But it's got pictures of me from the hospital. It talks about my why. And then it's got links to donate to the fundraiser, or
Nice.
if people want to donate to my expenses, they can do that too.
Right.
I have people that
That's
don't-
always nice.
right.
Yeah,
and
that's people being very generous, which is great. We thank you for that. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Throw them a little money here, everybody. Yes.
I mean, and that's people. And my cousin was like, "Man, you just don't want people to think that they're like donating for you to be on vacation." And I'm like, "If
That
you
ain't
think
a
what
bloody
if you
vacation.
think what I'm doing is a vacation, like
Yes. That's your cousin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because he's a realist, like he looks,
Yeah.
he tries to give the perspective that
I understand.
And I'm like, yeah, this is not like what I would do for if I have a vacation, I'd be in Hawaii.
Yes.
Or I would go to San Francisco and visit because
Yes.
I like the city. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be walking across the country alone.
Yeah.
and be in pain every single day
Yeah.
for fun.
No, that's not Joe. Joe, I agree with you 100%. That is not a vacation there, my friend. I mean, hell, that's a hell of accomplishment walking the way you're walking. Seriously. For you started in Delaware.
Yes.
And what town in Delaware?
Rehoboth Beach.
Rehoboth Beach.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think what I initially picked that for is that's where the American Discovery Trail begins.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
With Lewis and Clark.
No. The American Discovery Trail is actually the first and only non-motorized trail that goes east coast to west coast.
Really?
And I thought about following that the entire way, but the distances on it, there's a north and a south branch. I think when you leave Ohio, you can choose to go north or south. And one branch is like 4,800 miles, and the
Wow.
other is 5,000 miles.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
a
like,
lot,
or
too.
I could just go straight across.
Right.
But that is all on trails,
Yeah.
and sometimes through cities and whatnot. But most of it is, trails that already exist,
Yeah.
and they're all connected. So
And a lot of, if it's single track like the Appalachian Trail, you would not be able to push your cart.
Right.
It's not designed for that. You know,
Right.
you can't ride a bicycle on that trail either. It's truly a walking, backpacking.
Right.
I'm walking with my own 2 feet, and whatever I have with me, I'm throwing on my back.
Right.
Or on my waist.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, Joe. Yeah. So you started there, and it's approximately 3,100 miles total from Delaware, your starting point, to San Francisco, California.
Yeah.
And you're hoping to be there.
November 22nd is the latest I want to get there. That
And-
was my 40th birthday.
Yeah,
that was the
nice.
original goal. And in my head, it was going to be one of those those movie type things. Like, I'm going to get there. It's my 40th birthday. The light will come through the clouds. Everything's going to become clear to me, and then
Yes.
I can proceed with the second half of my life with this clarity. And
Yes.
and maybe I do. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Maybe I get there and it's just like, oh,
Right.
time to go home.
Right,
Dude.
Yeah,
But
reality check. That's how it is for me. You have this big hype. Oh, I'm going on this big bicycle trip, and then next thing you know, it's over. It's like, oh shit, where the hell did time go?
Right.
I can't believe that. We just started this bicycle trip. I was planning on loading all my crap on my bike.
right.
Yes, right. So that's a big deal. So, well, cool, Joe. It's nice to meet you. I'm glad everybody look him up. It's Hall across
The country.
the country on Facebook.
Yep.
And on Instagram,
The
it's
same thing, just with no spaces. Haul across the country.
yeah. I'll face you on there. I prefer Instagram.
Okay.
And I just feed Facebook. I'm not a Facebook guy, but
Yeah, I usually
more of an Instagram guy.
both of those typically get the same content anyway. So,
Right,
Because
correct.
I've got some people who are the same way. They only really follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
And there are a couple people that, even though I've told them not to, only follow on TikTok. I was like, well, you're going to get really bored because
Yeah.
you're not going to see a lot. But so
Yeah.
you're not going to miss anything or anything like that. So
Yeah. So did you grow up in Dayton, then?
I grew up in the Dayton area. I grew up in
High school out there and all that?
Yeah. Little tiny town of about 3,000 people, Enon. That's where I
Okay.
grew up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a little rural area, and it was one of those towns where when you're a kid, you're like, man, I can't wait to get out of town.
Yeah.
And then years later, when I was working, I actually worked for True Green, a lawn care company,
Uh-huh.
and they gave me a route in Enon, in the south end of the county that we lived in, and I was
Right.
like, man, I'd love to have it. If I had a family, I'd raise kids here. And I was
Yes.
like, you weren't saying this 15 years ago.
Isn't that bizarre? We always got into our parents laying into them. Like, what the hell did you do that for? And now we get older and we're like, wow, they had something going on.
Right.
Didn't get it figured out then, but I think I'm figuring it out now. So, well, Joe, thank you very much. It's nice meeting you, dude.
Likewise, thank you for
Good.
the chance to talk about it. Like I
Absolutely.
said, I
Yeah.
don't get a chance to talk to a lot of people.
No,
so.
no problems. And then the buggy's good to go, and so he's leaving from Fremont possibly tomorrow.
Right.
After a check-in again, and then you're heading to either Schuyler
Or North Bend.
or North Bend. Yeah,
Most-
well, North Bend's first, and Schuyler.
Right. Most
Yeah.
likely, if I end up staying here tonight, which again is as late in the day as it's getting, and I'll still got to go grab some lunch, I'll probably end up staying here tonight, and then just get up at about 4 and
roll.
get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll probably, and I want to get my feet and my body used to doing those longer mileage days, especially when I get, like we talked about, out west.
Yeah,
I want to be
Wyoming.
able, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada.
Yeah.
I want to be able to cover those long distances just because I'll be able to camp anywhere I want. So if
Yes.
I can get up early and just go and just be like, okay, well, I'm kind of tired now, I'll just camp here,
Yeah.
then I'll do that. But I want to try to, I've only got 3 months left, roughly, 87, 88 days left. If I can do those wilderness stretches quicker, then
Yeah.
I want to, if possible.
Right,
So
right. Well, good luck, Joe.
thank you.
Nice meeting you, man.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.